In 1888, London's East End became a hunting ground for history's most notorious serial killer. The gas-lit streets of Whitechapel echoed with screams that would haunt the city forever. A phantom killer emerged from the shadows, targeting the most vulnerable women in Victorian society, leaving behind a trail of terror that gripped not just London, but the entire world. His name? Jack the Ripper. And despite over 130 years of investigation, countless theories, and hundreds of suspects, his true identity remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. What you're about to discover will take you deep into the fog-covered streets of Victorian London, where poverty and desperation created the perfect hunting ground for a killer whose brutality shocked even the hardened police of the time. This is the complete story of Jack the Ripper, from his first victim to the theories that continue to fascinate us today. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon, because you won't want to miss our upcoming deep dives into history's darkest mysteries. Victorian Whitechapel. To understand Jack the Ripper, we must first understand the world he terrorized. The year was 1888, and London's East End was a place most respectable Victorians pretended didn't exist. Whitechapel was a maze of narrow streets, cramped tenements, and overcrowded lodging houses. Over 76,000 people were crammed into less than 1 square mile. The smell of poverty hung in the air like the ever-present London fog, a mixture of unwashed bodies, rotting food, and industrial smoke. For the women of Whitechapel, life was a daily struggle for survival. Many turned to prostitution, not by choice, but out of desperation. These women, known as unfortunates, would walk the streets at night, seeking clients who could pay for a bed in a lodging house or a hot meal. The police presence was minimal. Gas lamps provided the only light, creating pools of yellow illumination, separated by vast stretches of darkness. Perfect hunting grounds for someone with sinister intentions. It was into this world of desperation and darkness that our killer would emerge, targeting society's most vulnerable members in ways that would shock Victorian sensibilities to their core. The canonical 5 victims. While Jack the Ripper may have killed more, historians agree on 5 murders that bear his unmistakable signature, the canonical 5. Each killing was more brutal than the last, showing a progression that terrified investigators. Victim 1, Mary Ann Nichols, August 31, 1888. Mary Ann Nichols, 43 years old, was found in Bucks Row at 3:40 a.m. A mother of 5 who had fallen on hard times. Mary Ann was discovered with her throat cut so deeply it nearly severed her head. But this wasn't a simple murder. Her abdomen had been ripped open with surgic. Police Constable John Neal discovered her body, initially thinking she was unconscious. The reality was far worse. This was just the beginning. Victim 2, Annie Chapman, September 8, 1888. Just over a week later, Annie Chapman, 47, was found in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. The killer was becoming bolder, more confident. Annie's throat was cut, and her abdomen was opened with such skill that several organs had been removed and arranged beside her body. The precision troubled investigators. This wasn't the work of a madman. It was calculated, methodical, showing anatomical knowledge that suggested medical training. Victim 3, Elizabeth Stride, September 30th, 1888. Elizabeth Stride, known as Long Liz, was found in Dutfield's yard. Her throat was cut, but unusually, there was no abdominal mutilation. Many believe the killer was interrupted, perhaps by the man who discovered her body just minutes after she was killed. Victim 4, Catherine Edaways, September 30th, 1888. On the same night, less than an hour after Elizabeth Stride's murder, Catherine Eddowes was discovered in Mitre Square. This time, the killer had finished his work. Catherine's face was mutilated beyond recognition, her abdomen opened and organs removed with surgical precision. 2 murders in one night. The killer was taunting the police, showing them they couldn't stop him. Victim 5. Mary Jane Kelly, November 9, 1888. Mary Jane Kelly was different from the others, younger at 25, and killed indoors in her own room in Miller's Court. The killer had privacy, time, and space to work. What he did to Mary Jane Kelly was so horrific that the police photographs were kept secret for decades. Her entire body had been systematically dismantled. Organs were arranged around the room like a grotesque display. Even hardened police officers vomited at the scene. After Mary Jane Kelly, the canonical murders stopped. Jack the Ripper vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared. Police in pursuit. The investigation into Jack the Ripper became one of history's first modern police manhunts. Inspector Frederick Aberline led the case, deploying over 2,000 people and investigating more than 300 suspects. The police tried everything. Undercover officers dressed as women, walking the streets, bloodhounds to track the killer's scent, and even early forensic techniques. They analyzed handwriting, studied the killer's methods, and created detailed maps of his movements. But Jack the Ripper seemed to know exactly how to avoid capture. He struck in areas with multiple escape routes, chose victims who wouldn't be missed immediately, and left behind just enough evidence to taunt investigators without revealing his identity. The pressure was immense. Queen Victoria herself demanded results. Newspapers criticized the police daily. Vigilante groups formed. The entire city lived in fear, while the killer remained one step ahead. The few clues left behind only deepened the mystery. A piece of blood-stained apron, cryptic graffiti on a wall, and most famously, the letters sent to newspapers signed Jack the Ripper. Though experts still debate whether these were genuine or elaborate hoaxes. Jack's voice? "Dear boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet." These words, written in red ink, arrived at the Central News Agency on September 27, 1888. It was the first time the name Jack the Ripper appeared, and it would become the most famous serial killer moniker in history. Hundreds of letters poured in, claiming to be from the killer, but 3 stand out. The Dear Boss letter that gave us the name. The Saucy Jackie postcard that correctly predicted details of the double murder. The From Hell letter, accompanied by what the sender claimed was half of a human kidney. Were these genuine communications from the killer, or elaborate hoaxes by journalists seeking to sell newspapers? The debate continues today, but what's certain is that they captured the public's imagination and spread terror beyond London's borders. The tone was mocking, confident, almost playful, as if the writer enjoyed the attention and fear he was creating. Whether genuine or not, these letters became part of Jack the Ripper's terrifying legend. Who was Jack? Over 130 years, hundreds of suspects have been proposed. Let's examine the most compelling candidates. Montague John Druitt, a barrister and teacher whose body was found in the Thames weeks after Mary Kelly's murder. His own family suspected him, and the timeline fits perfectly. He had medical training and suffered from mental illness. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant living in Whitechapel, who was later committed to an asylum. Modern DNA analysis in 2014 claimed to link him to the crimes, though this evidence remains controversial. Walter Sickert, the artist theory. Crime novelist Patricia Cornwell spent millions investigating painter Walter Sickert, claiming his artwork contained hidden references to the murders. Her theory, while elaborate, remains unproven. Dr. Francis Tumblety, an American doctor with a hatred of women and a collection of preserved organs. He fled London during the murders and was arrested in New York shortly after. The royal conspiracy, perhaps the most sensational theory, suggests a cover-up involving Queen Victoria's grandson, Prince Albert Victor, and the royal physician, Sir William Gull. This theory inspired numerous books and films, but lacks credible evidence. The problem with every suspect is the same: tantalizing circumstantial evidence, but nothing concrete. No smoking gun, no definitive proof. It's as if Jack the Ripper was designed to remain a mystery forever. The Ripperology phenomenon. The study of Jack the Ripper has become its own field, Ripperology. Thousands of researchers, both amateur and professional, continue investigating these 130-year-old crimes. Modern technology has been applied: DNA analysis, computer modeling, geographic profiling, and psychological analysis. Each new technique promises to finally solve the mystery, yet Jack the Ripper's identity remains elusive. TV shows, documentaries, books, and even virtual reality experiences continue exploring the case. The Jack the Ripper Museum in London attracts thousands of visitors annually. Walking tours of Whitechapel remain popular attractions. But perhaps the enduring fascination says more about us than about the killer himself. In an age where every crime seems solvable through forensics and technology, Jack the Ripper remains triumphantly, mysteriously unsolved. The legend lives on. Jack the Ripper killed at least 5 women in a span of just over 2 months in 1888. Yet his impact on history, culture, and the public imagination far exceeds the scope of his crimes. He changed how we think about serial killers, influenced police investigation methods, and created the template for media coverage of sensational crimes. The name Jack the Ripper has become synonymous with mystery, terror, and the dark side of human nature. But we must remember, behind the legend were real women: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Their lives were cut short, not by a mysterious phantom, but by a very real killer who has escaped justice for over a century. Perhaps that's why the case continues to fascinate us. In a world where we expect answers, Jack the Ripper represents the ultimate unsolved puzzle. He vanished into the fog of Victorian London and has remained there ever since, taunting us across the centuries with the ultimate question: who was Jack the Ripper? What do you think? Who's your prime suspect? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's greatest mystery, make sure to subscribe for more investigations into the darkest corners of the past. The fog may have lifted from Whitechapel streets, but the shadow of Jack the Ripper remains as dark as ever. In an age where every crime seems solvable through forensics and technology, Jack the Ripper remains triumphantly, mysteriously unsolved. The legend lives on. Jack the Ripper killed at least 5 women in a span of just over 2 months in 1888. Yet his impact on history, culture, and the public imagination far exceeds the scope of his crimes. He changed how we think about serial killers, influenced police investigation methods, and created the template for media coverage of sensational crimes. The name Jack the Ripper has become synonymous with mystery, terror, and the dark side of human nature. But we must remember, behind the legend were real women: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Their lives were cut short not by a mysterious phantom, but by a very real killer who has escaped justice for over a century.